Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the On the Diamond and Into the Deep podcast. As always, I am your host, Mahal, and today is episode 79 of On the Diamond and Into the Deep. We're recording post-game Tuesday, June 24th. It is currently 8 p.m. on the dot, and we are talking about a potential series win in Minnesota for the Seattle Mariners. Mariners have won both of the first two games. Last night, they won pretty big time in terms of scoring a lot of runs. I mean, the offense has been very, very good this road trip, and it starts with Luke Raley coming back, and I think that's first and foremost where this is beginning. And today, we're going to talk about Luke Raley, how he's fitting into the lineup, and how it's low-key a tough fit right now because there's a lot of guys hitting right now, all sort of in the same few spots. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about two potential trade targets for the Minnesota Twins, one of which entered the game tonight as a pinch hitter. The other is a reliever. We will talk about those two guys. We will also talk about a potential package for each of them on their own, and then a potential package for the both of them. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So to begin, Seattle Mariners are back. Or are they? It's hard to know. But Luke Raley, we know for sure, is back. He's back from injury, he's back from his oblique, and he's been pretty solid since he came back. And the combination of him looking pretty solid, Dominic Canzone being very, very good, and Donovan Solano being really fantastic, especially as of late. The combination of all those things, as well as Cole Young hitting at second base, it makes it a tough fit to play all these guys, and they're not all going to be able to play on any given night. But that's not a bad thing. It's going to allow you to rotate them, and you've seen that both in the first two games of the season, or of the series. Oh my goodness. Last night you saw Solano get a night off. Today you saw Polanco get a day off. I believe Sunday you saw. Did Young get a day off Sunday? I believe Young got a day off Sunday. But either which way, you're seeing guys get days off. They're rotating them. It's allowing them to sort of stick with the hot hand in all of them. They're all getting at-bats, and they're all taking those at-bats and running with it. Where do we want to start with it? I guess let's talk about Donovan Solano. We collected all these stats today on Sunday night before the Twin Series. So, since a two-hit game on May 24th, this is what I'm going to do in terms of splits for Donovan Solano. Two-hit game in Houston, May 24th. That is exactly a month ago as of today. This does not include Sunday, where Solano hit 2 homers and went 3 for 5 with 5 RBIs. That said, since May 24th, Solano is hitting 429, 487, 543 in 13 games and 39 plate appearances. That's good enough for an OPS over 1,000, a WRC plus over 200, and a 43% hard hit rate. When you acquired Solano, you expected the guy to be about a 280 hitter with about a 350 on base. His season numbers are starting to inch towards that. As of yesterday morning, Solano's hitting 257, 295, 371 with a 92 WRC plus. He's heating up. And a lot of it has been since May 24th. And you can even go back farther than that because he had a few hits in games before that. I just wanted to take that exact date and take that game and sort of begin it from then on. If you want to talk about before that date, Solano was atrocious, and this is why people were calling for him to get DFA'd. Before that date, Solano was hitting 138, 162, 169 in 28 games and 68 plate appearances. That was good enough for a 25% hard hit rate, so a 20% difference there, and a -8 WRC plus. That's 108% below league average as a hitter. Since that date, he's been 105% above league average as a hitter. And you combine all that, and he's been about league average. And he had, again, he went 3 for 5 Sunday, and he had 2 more hits tonight. The guy's on a roll. It's multi-hit game after multi-hit game after multi-hit game right now. And this is exactly why you acquired him. He's a veteran leader that's going to bring clubhouse stuff, but he's also just going to get on base and get knocks and be a guy that the Mariners haven't had in their lineup. And everybody, I mean everybody, was calling for his head. And it's incredible, the fact that the Mariners stuck with him. It was shocking in some ways. And some people were shocked that they DFA'd Rowdy Tellez over in favor of Solano. I personally was not, just because Solano had been better up until that point, and then he had a fantastic weekend. But also, because why would you have 3 left-handed hitters for 2 spots? Doesn't really make sense when you already can't hit left-handed pitching. And we'll talk more about that not being able to hit left-handed pitching in a little bit later in this episode, but also next week's episode. I'm planning to talk about some of that randomness, some of those things that the Mariners have struggled to do, and some attributes that maybe they should look for in guys that they acquire at the deadline. But sticking to today, again, Solano's been very, very good. And if we want to go pull up his Fangraphs page right now, just to see what his stats are at, including Sunday in terms of season stats. Or we can do splits tool. But again, Donovan Solano has been very, very good actually as of late. And there are going to be people that are like, how the heck did that happen? And I think that I myself am included in that in some ways. But if he can stick anywhere close to what he's been doing, that's going to be huge. Huge for the Mariners. Just pulled up his stats, his updated stats, including Sunday, since May 24th. He's hitting now 450 with a 500 on base percentage, 700 slug, a 1200 OPS, a 250 ISO, a 500 batting average on balls in play, and a 249 WRC plus. During that time, he's also walking about 7% of the time and striking out just 16% of the time. He also has 3 walks during that period, and that's in 14 games and 44 plate appearances. He's starting to inch closer towards the plate appearance, or actually he's over, I believe, the plate appearance mark now. Let's see. Is he? 44. No, he's not. Not quite over the plate appearance mark. But if you can see sort of him start to keep clicking the way he is right now, or anywhere close to it. I mean, if you get what he's doing right now on an every other day type of basis in terms of hitting wise, if he's getting 2 or 3 hits and then he's getting nothing, 2 or 3 hits, then nothing, that's still going to be an absolute gem for the Mariners. And that's going to be a presence in their lineup that hasn't really been felt, and a presence that kind of needs to be felt. And it's been very positive. And I don't want to just talk about Solano too much, because there's more to talk about. But it's been really good to see. And it changes what you might have to do at the deadline. Because if Solano keeps hitting like this, and Canzone keeps hitting like this, and Rayleigh hits how Rayleigh hits, where's the biggest hole in your lineup? And again, we'll talk about this on episode 80 next week. But the biggest hole in your lineup is probably third base. That's going to be a difficult one to fill, especially if the Diamondbacks aren't sellers. But we'll talk about some potential options for that next week because there are options for you to sort of move around stuff. You can have flexibility. But I think one way or another, Solano needs to stay in your lineup. And maybe that's going to look like you going and acquiring a Ryan O'Hearn type, a guy that can't really hit left-handed pitching. Maybe that's where Solano's role is. Is he going to be a weak side platoon that's also going to DH some? Is that where he's going to be best? It's hard to know. But he's also been a whole lot better this season against right-handed pitching than he has against left-handed pitching, just looking at his splits right now. If you want just WRC plus, he's been a 191 against right-handed pitching and just a 35 against left-handed pitching. He's walking 24% of the time against lefties and 19.5% against righties. Walking 9.8% of the time against righties, 1.4% against lefties. So that option in itself doesn't really make any sense. Is Ryan O'Hearn just the Donovan Solano that you have to go pay more for with a little bit more of a track record this year and is going to hit for more power? And maybe you can have both of them in your lineup, especially if Polanco isn't the Jorge Polanco that you were seeing in April or anywhere near that. There are options. If Solano hits the way he's hitting, there are options for what you want to do at the deadline. It changes a lot. And I think one way or another, this team needs to go get a guy that can hit left-handed pitching. And that's where the guy that I have for the Mariners to acquire from the Twins, I think, comes into play. But just briefly before mentioning him, let's talk about Dominic Canzone. Dominic Canzone has been very, very good since he was recalled. In 12 games, stats were recorded pre-game yesterday. Canzone is hitting 286, 342 with a 600 slug, 3 homers, and a 168 WRC plus. If he can keep up anywhere near this pace, that's going to be fantastic. And I think we'll look at this in a week, and that'll probably also be in episode 80. In fact, let's just put a note to talk about Canzone. But if Canzone has another good week here, I think we can talk about sort of why he's having a better season and what is different between him this year and last year. But I think you do need to see a little bit more before you can sort of determine that fully. Moving into acquisitions and trade targets potentially from the Twins if they fall out of it. And I think the Mariners are on the verge of really pushing the Twins out of it. Let's just go look at the MLB standings currently. American League standings. Let's look at this. So, the Minnesota Twins are 12.5 back of the Tigers in the AL Central. They are not going to catch the Tigers. I think that's pretty dang clear now. In terms of wild card, and this is where it's going to be interesting, the Twins are currently 4.5 back. They are the 4th worst team in the American League. This is a team really on the verge, I think, of falling out of it. You beat them tomorrow, 5.5 out, I think. Because I think this includes today. Is this live updating? I believe this is live update. Again, this is the 4th worst team in the American League right now. They are 4.5 out. They're worse than the Royals are right now. They are worse than the Angels are right now. They are worse than the Rangers, the Red Sox, the Guardians. And then there are the Mariners who are in the 3rd wild card spot right now. The Twins have 1, 2, 3 teams ahead of them in the division and 2 of them ahead in the wild card standings. You go win tomorrow, 5.5 out. The next day you win, all of a sudden the Twins are 6.5 out. And all of a sudden they're 7 games below 500. You have an opportunity to sink them. And I think they probably will end up being sellers at this deadline. And there's not a whole lot of pieces that I think that they're going to trade that maybe you're going to want. But the guy I'm looking at is Willie Castro. This is basically a Dylan Moore type. He's a guy that's going to be a solid hitter, and he's having a career year this year. that's going to play all around the diamond and that has a little bit of speed. Now he's not crazy speedy. He's above average as a runner, but he's a solid hitter. He's a switch hitter. He'd be a rental, be a free agent at the end of the year. He's been a 2.5, 3-win player for pretty much all of his career, especially the last 2 seasons. He's not a crazy good fielder, but he can play second base, left field, right field the best. He can also play third base, shortstop, and even center field. Can he play first base? I mean, is it possible? I definitely think it is. He hasn't done it a whole lot, if at all, in his career. But you've seen what Perry Hill can do. And even if he can play a little bit of third base and DH a little bit and go to a corner a little bit, and maybe you're facing a tough lefty, and this guy has been very, very good against left-handed pitching, and I think that's one of the reasons that he might be a great acquisition. But maybe it's a day where you cannot play Ken Zone or Ray Lee or even Cole Young, and you're like, we need someone that can go hit left-handed pitching and hit in the 6th spot in our order. That's what this guy can go do. As a whole this year, he's hitting 280, 362, 456 with a 133 WRC plus. Last year, the past 2 seasons, actually, both he was 108 WRC plus. That's 8% above league average as a hitter. This year, he's above average as a walker. He's striking out a little bit. He chases and whiffs a little bit, which are all things that you're not going to like. He's not a perfect target by any means. His batting average on balls in play is 40 points higher than it was last year. And he hasn't been hitting the ball super duper hard. So I think the combination of not hitting the ball super hard, the BABIP being higher, chasing and whiffing a little bit, K-ing a bit, I think those are all things that maybe are going to be a little bit of red flags for people. And also not playing a super clean defensive game at any of the positions that he can play. But I think the biggest thing for me on why I want this guy, he can hit freaking left-handed pitching. He's hitting 308, 348, 554 with a 902 WRC, a 902 OPS, and a 152 WRC plus versus lefties. His walk rate's a whole lot lower, but as a hitter as a whole, he's been a whole lot better. And he's been improving as the weather heats up and as the season goes on. Through the end of April, he was an 86 WRC plus. In May, a 146. So far in June, a 165. And the other thing this guy does really well is hit fastballs. And the Mariners need a guy that can just go crank fucking fastballs. This guy does some things that the Mariners lineup desperately needs. And he's not the perfect fit by any means. But I don't think this guy's going to be crazy super expensive. The package I have for him is Michael Morales and Spencer Packard. And it's hard to know what the package would be because you haven't really seen the market get established. But I think that's roughly around what it's going to be. And if you're telling me that I'm trading Michael Morales and Spencer Packard and even someone a little bit better than that and throwing a couple more prospects, like one more prospect, someone that can throw in the bullpen. Maybe you're throwing in, maybe it's Brandon Garcia for Willie Castro. Like, are you not doing that? For a half season of Willie Castro, a guy that's going to be able to play all over the diamond and hit left-handed pitching and is going to make your lineup and team better. He's 28 years old. He'll be a free agent. Maybe you can go re-sign him. He's not going to be crazy expensive on the free agent market. And he improves your team. And like I said, he is a little bit redundant with Dylan Moore. But he's been what Dylan Moore needs to be, and you need someone to be able to go and do that. And he improves your team. And the biggest thing at this deadline that the Mariners need to do is improve their team. And sometimes that's going to be on the margins. And yes, they need to go get a big bat. But alongside that big bat or big bat and then like another solid bat, you're also going to need just some small pieces to improve this lineup. And Willie Castro, I think, can be that. This shouldn't be the flashy signing of your deadline. But this is a signing that, or a trade deadline acquisition that would make your team better, and that's what you need to go do. And playing on that, the other place that you really need to improve this team is your bullpen. And I think the Twins also have a guy that can go and do that. The Mariners obviously have a very good lefty in Gabe Spire. But would it be a negative addition to go add another lefty that can face both right and left-handed hitters and be good against both? A guy that's a veteran at 35 years old and is also a rental. A guy that has multiple saves and holds so far this year and that gets strikeouts. The guy I'm talking about is Danny, I think it's Colombe. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And he's having a very good season. And he's had some injury woes the past few years. And so far already this year, he's had a forearm extensor strain. And maybe that's going to lessen the return. But if you're telling me you're acquiring a guy that has a 10.07 Ks per 9 this year, a walks per 9 under 2, and hasn't given up a homer, against left-handed hitters since 2021, like, yes, sign me up all over that. He has a whip under 1. His ERA is 0.46, and his FIP is only 1.44. And yes, he's only thrown 19 2/3 innings and appeared in 25 games because he was hurt and isn't technically qualified. But his savant page is also bright red and gorgeous. It's not a high-risk acquisition by any means, I don't think. I don't think this is going to be a guy that's going to cost you any big-name prospects or anyone really you might know. But this is a guy that is mostly a 4-pitch mix, that there's 3 variations of a fastball. He throws a 4-seam, a cutter, and a sinker, mostly the cutter and his sinker, and also has a pretty nasty sweeper. And a guy that's shutting right-handed hitters down, allowing just 2 extra base hits, and hasn't allowed one to left-handed hitters, who are slugging just 182 against him and hitting just 182 against him, and right-handed hitters are hitting just 162 against him. And if you look at last year, he was also very good against both right and left-handed hitters. This is a guy that doesn't have a splits problem. This is a guy that's going to improve your bullpen. He's going to be able to pitch in the 7th, maybe even 8th inning. Definitely before that. And he would improve your bullpen pretty desperately because let's say you were facing a team with a lot of left-handed hitters like the Detroit Tigers, for example. And this has been a problem for the Mariners. They haven't been able to see a whole lot of, or they haven't been able to beat teams that have a whole lot of left-handed hitters, and the Detroit Tigers are the main example of this. Let's say you go acquire Colombe, and all of a sudden, you have him and Spire in that bullpen, and you have a starter need to come out in the 5th inning. You're like, okay, Colombe, go get an out or 2 in the 5th inning, and then go pitch also some or all of the 6th inning. Okay, then you set yourself up for another reliever. Maybe that's Vargas, then Brash, then Munoz. It's the type of guy that he's a bridge guy. That's the word you're looking for. That's the word that describes him. And he is not without some concerns and red flags in of himself. But this is a low-risk move and a potential high-risk or low-risk, high-reward type of addition. It's going to solidify the middle and back end of your bullpen, and it's going to allow you to have a second lefty, and it's going to make your team better against something that you haven't been able to beat. He can pitch high-leverage innings and face left-handed hitters, right-handed hitters, whatever. And he can get strikeouts, and these are all things the Mariners need. The Mariners need someone that can fill in as a bridge guy, and even in high-leverage innings. They need a guy with experience, and they need a guy that can get damn strikeouts. And this guy can do all those things. The only worry is some injury fatigue. And again, I think the biggest stat that I'm looking at is he hasn't given up a home run to a left-handed hitter since 2021. And his injuries that he's had have been a little bit funk. 2022 left labrum in his hip, ended his season. 23, he was healthy and very good. 24, bone spur in his left elbow. Bryce Millery, he returned at the last week of during the last week of last season, and he's missed about 3 weeks this year with a left forearm injury. The worry would be, is he not going to be able to pitch down the stretch and pitch a lot of innings? But I think that the risk of that is worth not giving up a whole lot of capital for a guy that could potentially pitch high leverage innings for you as a lefty and face left-handed hitters and get left-handed hitters out at a very good rate and bring a lot of strikeouts and limit home runs. These are all things that the Mariners bullpen and Mariners pitching staff really needs as a whole. And he would bring that on a cheaper deal in terms of capital given up. In terms of what I think a trade might look like, the trade I had was Luis Suizbel and Taylor Saucedo. Would it cost more than this? Potentially. Would it cost less than this? Also potentially. I think it's really hard to know what this market looks like. But are you telling me you wouldn't give up also you wouldn't give up Brandon Garcia and Luis Suizbel for this guy? Or even I'm trying to think of other names. It's hard because you don't want to give up anyone too big, and I don't think you're going to have to in either of these deals. But there's a pretty big fall off between the two, and you don't want to give up a whole lot from your major league roster, especially for a rental. But are you telling me that in a package deal you wouldn't give up Locklear for Castro and Colombe? I would probably do that. And maybe some people aren't going to like that, but I think that's a move that you can very, very well make and feel pretty comfortable about. And I think it's a move that pretty significantly improves your club, even if it's on the fringes. We talked about when Donovan Solano was signed, that he improves the team on the fringes and he raises your floor. And these two guys, I think that they do that. They raise the floor of this ball club and they push you further towards making the postseason. And they shore up some potential holes that you have as a team. That's something that needs to be done. Anyways, that is all from me today. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been episode 79 of On the Diamond and Into the Deep. As always, I am Mahal. Thank you so much for listening. Go M's. Let's go get this series win tomorrow or Thursday. Almost said Wednesday. This will probably come out pregame Wednesday. Let's go get the series win. As always, go M's and peace.